It's June 12th, 2022. I was watching last night the second episode of The Time Traveler's Wife. I, of course, was transported back to when I wore these sunglasses originally. Someone came to visit, I think I was in Tampa. There's some costume jewelry. There was some Polaroid taken. I've since seen the same pose or stance or whatever in a very real musician who's younger than I am. I'm watching this HBO. I'm thinking MFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in an HBO, they claim it's home box office, thinking that the lavishly elite don't really care much for necessarily the money, but to keep their noses clean when they try to help or pass on whatever. So I'm watching this, and there's this character, and I'm wondering if this is how does one choose or get chosen for the role of Henry or Thor, and what's involved in partnership. Then they're talking about, this isn't about the time traveler himself. No. This story is about the time traveler's wife. Because for some reason, she's in this stagnant, common area shit position, and the time traveler's part of the higher order that's allowed to do so, allowed to time travel. And in this erasure of some sort, with some extraterrestrial terraform level planning. I mean, I saw the signs of the Nixon. It's next, Nacht type of a thing. It's a 69. That's, in astrology, that's Cancer. But it's the past and the present and the converging, conjuring, and then the divergence. And even though she wants to, and I even said to the time traveler, the last guy that came to visit me in St. Mark's Place, I mean, I even said to him, I'm like, why are they doing this to me? Why? Like, I mean, outcome, like, win-win for everybody. Like, send me the correct person, not the guy who I entered this that took me here, because everybody knows he's wrong. I mean, every American that's ever seen me with this guy knows there's no love here. He's, first of all, he's shorter than 6 foot, and we don't get along. Like, I can get along for business purposes, but, like, we're not the same league of human. We're just not. It was never going to work. And it's just trouble and harmful to leave him in this situation. But here we are. And so I watch it, and so I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, is that supposed to be like if Thor and I could get together and have some taped message? Because, like, the only thing this girl in this time traveler's wife's story is interested in is, how do people meet? Like, how do you meet your one? And that's exactly what I told the woman when we took the Polaroid and I had these glasses. I said, if this, I mean, I'm Rh negative. I was going to be a breeding female for Rh negative, most important thing in the whole entire world. Just is. There's less than 10% of us on on the planet. Endangered species as far as humans are concerned. So when speaking to an alien, it was just, I mean, if they go through with this and they withhold the correct breeding partner, I mean, like, why would they do that, one? And two, how do I get out of it? Like, I want to be with whom I'm supposed to be with. Why should I be walking around eternity wondering where he is? I know he exists. I mean, in this part of 20th century where the astrology has booted me up every day, I got a phone call, a very interesting phone call, in a different part of the island, in a different time frame. And I could not, he asked if I had a boyfriend that I pined over or that I could remember, and I said I couldn't, and that was real in that moment. I didn't have name, I didn't have face, I didn't have even parts of my own history that I could connect to. But that's part of the greater existential planetary issue that's going on. And the human connection within, which again goes to a much higher learning institute or academy or ministry, or I don't even know what they call themselves or how they organize themselves. But in this moment, bits and pieces, fragments. It's like having a hard drive. I've seen a thing where they say it's like fractalated, and that it's fragmented, and they have to defragment and pull with magnetics it back into and harness the energy the right way for it to be optimized. And that's part of where I feel I'm at the moment, but whatever on that. And so someone's son got to be the depiction of Mon Dieu in some movie. I'm sure there were a lot of applicants. I didn't hear about it. Again, not the society that I even have access to. But to answer that one question about, like, how do you meet your person? I mean, my question's a little different because there's so many people out in surreal world, not even real world, but surreal world, that are trying to hold and pull me in this rip current way for reasons I don't know why. Again, when you're only 10% of the existing population and your children carry a certain level of whatever, regardless of the place in the order that you've been cast or characterized as, it's still utmost importance to gather those seeds and bring them back to somewhere safe. I don't know why it hasn't worked that way. But I can see in this time traveler's wife the attempts at trying to make some form of amends in like a seamless way of how do you speak through some intermediary when one has been so wounded by things that go on that you can't possibly reach. And others know that and use it to their advantage. There's good out there somewhere. I just categorically don't know which piece is where. There's so much that doesn't make it into my life frame or my headspace, whether it be cost of renting space in someone's head, which is sometimes through this machine, sometimes through the ear on the radio, sometimes by sending a messenger. But again, this is what it looks like in my portion of real world, where the message is received, but I don't know who sent it. But it's their version of trying to answer that question of how are you supposed to meet your person. And in this real moment, he's still living in surreal somewhere else. Because here, I know this is like Middle Earth, like abandoned sections, what it feels like. I'm assuming surreal watches from some other gateway or star path, or I don't know the words they use.
It didn't matter because we were all the same, Henry. Just shuffled. When someone so bright comes into your life, something else comes with them. Absence. What you have to understand is that this is not a story about a time traveler. It's the story of the time traveler's wife.
One person had the ability to make the moves. I'm in a different position at whatever.
There's certain key moments in.
And I noticed that they took her head off. The woman, she sings opera. And they literally decapitated her in this whatever, again, succession being what it is. And I don't even really know what that word means in success. When I shorten it and then ion, I get that. And astrology and numerology, got that. But I don't know if that is someone admitting that they know about what they did to me with this Havana syndrome, that now there's some public acknowledgement of it, of some classified event that was classified at one point, wasn't handled properly. So of course I went through it in the field, even though people knew about it, could have prevented it, but there's some other ulterior motive at play, which I'm like looking for Beauregard, but I've got nothing on a daily basis.
His life, which mean a lot to Henry, which he'll keep circling back to, and he'll keep falling through time like a trapdoor and going back. That's something he has to live with and go through.
We know something horrible is coming because we can see Henry after Henry after Henry watching the events unfold.
We have to feel that something's not right today. What is that? I want to play this as real as possible.
And we learn that
It is interesting that the powers that be, I can't tell a car difference. I wasn't a car enthusiast by any means. But that looked like either a Pontiac or I don't think it was it was a Pontiac or Thunderbird, I think, was the car that crashed into the back, that pushed her forward, that then the thing decapitated her, which is some overlord succession sign for possibly the world of hurt and the whatever that they threw me into.
Henry grew up having witnessed the horrific destruction of his own mother, and then realized, of course, that because this event so traumatized him, he has to travel back and live through it again and again and again.
Episode 2, you start learning.
I mean, this is like Henri Lossier, Notre Dame level of whatever. It's not the English version, although I know some whatever is going to read it however they want to read it, because they are whoever they are, but whatever at the great beyond.
Learning a bit more about Henry.
And also I had to realize and remind myself, there's some guy named James Franco, completely different guy, because I think he's tattooed, than this guy, Theo James. It took me a minute to realize, because again, side by side, I don't have their headshots or whatever career. And I'm not even at that level of, like they said the other day, something about one of the Supreme Court justices that they were just like Googling online and their information's just floating out there. I'm like, how was this ever allowed? I mean, I can't get that level. I wouldn't even know where on the internet to even begin searching for that level of stuff.
He's someone who's gone through trauma, someone who struggles with memory, someone who struggles with leaving the past behind him because it's literally shoved in his face.
I suppose you don't remember her very well.
You're really not thinking this is true, are you?
I'm trying to.
Well, she died when I was 8, but I'm a time traveler,
So?
so I get to see her all the time.
Yeah, so Henry travels back in time. He sees his parents younger than he is.
Who's this?
This is Henry. Oh, that's quite a scar.
What would change your view of your own parents if you could understand them at your own age? You know, if you could literally...
I think at this 20th century turning point, or turn of the century, sometimes the humans say that, I remember a teenage conversation with someone that knew I was like different than the rest. Not quite sure, and like a kind of sort of but not really way of explaining it. But wanting to get my thoughts on time travel, and like, I don't know if it was more of like spiritual conjecture, or if it was just like a basis of knowledge to base other things off of. I'm not quite sure. But I know I had a whole lot of questions, because I'm like, I really like, I don't want to be disrespectful, really, because I know how important you are, but, and people like you don't come along every day for people like me to even entertain this level of question. But I just need a little more, like I'm left with so many more questions than answers on how is it built, because it's not just like a one way. I can't just answer it logically. I need like I don't know, like some kind of, I don't even have words for it. And I didn't have words at that point for it, because again, not many people spoke to me. I mean, I had people at the front of the room being held captivated in the North America by their education system they were able to put together. But it wasn't nearly at that level of depth that I was built for, that I easily, like, and I think they call it abstract, but I have that abstract mind. I was born with it, but
even interact with them. It's a strange, emotional moment for him.
Henry, like any normally functioning person, loves his parents very much. But he has a strange relationship because he sees the proposal. He sees the first kiss, he later reveals. He sees all that. It both draws him to his parents and pushes him away a bit.
What's your name?
Why do you need to know?
You never tell me your name. And we're friends.
We're not friends. Who told you we're friends? I'm training you.
Young Henry meets this older guy who he thinks he's maybe cool and a bit dangerous, but he doesn't know that he's part of himself, that he is himself.
Come on, how long have we been doing this? How many lessons now?
You will never teach me mean stuff.
Survival skills.
Beating people up.
Dumpster diving, tree climbing, Venetian blinds deployed as weapons. I know you're going to need all those things, those specific things. How do I know that?
28-year-old Henry's existence and survival depends on the lessons he's teaching 8-year-old Henry.
That means all the listening, all the time, happens in this direction.
Why are you angry with me?
He's angry, not at the kid. Yeah.
That is the most, like, crucial little psyop, like, right there. Like, I don't need to know, like, the whole world's secret stash of treasure trove of info. What I need is to get me from birth to whatever breeding season and through end of life cycle. Like, that's like, just bring me there and just need to know basis kind of a thing. But, like, humans weren't even able to give me that much.
Not at his childhood self. He's just angry that this happened, trying to pretend he's all right with it and being all bristle and unemotional and rubbish. Nonsense, come on.
It's not your fault. It's not changeable.
Usually when you do time travel stories, it's all about how you can alter it. This story says, no, it's absolutely set.
Claire! Claire!
Why are you following me?
Why did you get off the train?
Because I decided to, because it was my choice, and to hell with what the future says. I mean, what is the matter?
And meeting St. Mark's Place, I was not this argumentative. I was inquisitive. I was lost in space and time. Knew what was all off and wrong. I've known that from the beginning when I arrived. And it was just like, well, how do I fix it? Right? I know I can't fix it myself. Are you working on it? Like, who do I need to speak to? I mean, like, how do I get you to help me, since this at the bar on the, like, patron side of being patronized is not the same as the server?
Why don't you fight back?
Because it's impossible, because look at where you are right now. Look at where you're standing. This is our stop. I'm not following you. We're always going to get off here anyway. That's how it works. Exactly like that. Whatever you decide to do is what you're always going to do anyway.
That does not work for my situation. That's an argument in someone else's rationale that is completely irrational when it comes to my life frame.
Yes.
She very much has self-belief that she can manipulate fate and she can kind of orchestrate what she wishes to happen.
One way or another, I am getting off the train. Watch me. This is me changing the future.
She's committed to the fact that she is going to dictate the rules of their relationship.
I wouldn't be that stupid, and I have never been caught that stupid, ever. They've just withheld the level of service that I needed to obtain, like, reach to be a good participant, and the level of what I needed for real world surreal marriage. And I needed surreal participation in a helpful manner, not in this very harmful way that it's been.
Are you even still here? Just because time travel tells you so?
Most of what time travel tells me is terrifying. And I know that one day I'm not going to survive it. Not only does he have this disease,
I feel like I'm wrapped up in somebody else's schedule who's just too busy.
which means that his life is limited, but he also has seen firsthand how life can be taken from you at any moment.
She is for the first time getting a little peek into the vulnerable side of Henry, particularly when she's been so kind of adamant that he's rather arrogant and she doesn't like those particular traits in him.
What makes you sad? Because I need to know you. I need to understand you.
There's a softening.
I think I said that to somebody once in a place called Sunnyside. Some other person took me there. I think it was Melissa and Maria were there at that particular moment in why is it a Barden? why do they keep bringing me to a bar? Like, where else can you go without having alcohol and mixology? Like, I'm not, like, take it or leave it on the drinking thing. I really don't care. I really just want to meet somebody. But it's like I'm sitting in this space where it's giving an opportunity for someone to just rearrange their schedule and bump in. But it's not exactly the most high caliber, but I don't really live in a city that has high caliber things at the moment. It's not like I'm going to be in a boardroom and bump into somebody. That doesn't happen. Not in my life frame. They have me cast as some working poor at this point.
To her in episode 2 because he's opening up to her, and so that's a kind of turning of the page for their relationship. What's that?
Memories.
Of what?
My mum. So why would you ask her? If you could.
I don't want to play games.
I'm not playing games. Claire, I'm trying to introduce you to my mom. Please.
How do people ever get together?
In the moment he decides that in the future he's going to revisit his mother and ask her.
How do they get? And then together. And together is spelled to get her. How does one ever get together? How do you gather your things when they might be born like Disney film of Dumbo and all the different animals are delivered by the stork in the same winter mobile whatever? How does one get to their particular animal that was delivered by the stork system in actuality, in a timely fashion, so she doesn't get hurt?
To say something to Claire.
You want to hear it? My mom's answer.
If you'll excuse me, I just need to pass on a message to somebody who I know is going to be listening tonight. Hello, Claire.
So when Claire hears Annette speaking to her on the cassette tape 20 years after it was first recorded.
20 years. It's about right from when I also saw today on Shrek 3. There's a donkey in that movie. There's also a donkey in Pinocchio, which Pinocchio, according to my 9th decade elder, has a Smithsonian cover story in Smithsonian Magazine this month, which I don't get. She did. I didn't have time to sit there and read it. I totally forgot in the whatever we were up to. And spending family time. But she did make mention of it. I did. And then I come back and I realize that there's this little boy with these donkey ears. I then don't want Lewis to ever be considered that person necessarily. But I had the problem with getting sent to by this girl Janice to something called a crazy donkey, which is where Romer entered, which I very really said I was waiting for the tall gentleman that I was dating, and I was not interested in him whatsoever to leave me alone. But the kid kept calling and calling and call. I hung up. I disconnected my phone for a while, but he just kept calling.
I think she's flooded with a whole load of emotions, and obviously Henry's incredibly emotional as well because he too hasn't heard the tape until now.
I'm going to try and answer Claire's question tonight. So, Claire, it is better to be happy for a little while, just a brief time, even if you know you're going to lose it, than to be just okay for your whole life. It's always later than you think, and this is the only time you ever get. So good luck, Claire. And you know what?
That feels very Hunger Games to me. Just does. It looks that way too.
Just get the hell on with it.
There's a bit of closure for Henry. He's able to connect the greatest loves in his life, his parents and his wife.
There's been no happiness here. There's been no, even for a little while, there's been absolutely none of that. It's just so we get facts straight. Star 1978, Star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.